Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Upload, Season 2, Episode 4. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, let's start off with that opening where we have Nora, Mateo, and Ivan showing up at a facility where we kind of find out even more truths about everything, because they haven't really tackled the whole re-downloading someone from an upload since season 1. Once again, the dude's head exploded and on television, so everyone kind of saw that disaster of a situation. But basically, they're trying to perfect the technology. But even at first, Nora's like, wait, why would they do that? Why would they, you spend your life here and then you upload? What's the point? It's like, well, you do all that you can damage-wise to this world, and then when things kind of get sucky, you upload yourself, live out, a couple decades there for scientists to figure out stuff in the real life and fix everything, and then you come back and start the process all over again. It's like, right, you basically burn this world, use it up, its resources, then upload yourself and kind of live your best life. So I wonder, is that where Mr. Choke's his storyline's going to go? Because I kept bringing up that point last episode where you can tell, like, the afterlife isn't like what it's kind of chalked up to be, or at least it hasn't been going 100% his way. Eventually he will run out of stuff of like, right, I've been here for a minute and it's not, I'm going to eventually run out of stuff I haven't tasted or done, and it's just all the money and all that you've done for your life, it's all meaningless after a while, when like forever is a very long time where you're not able to experience anything new anymore. Plus, once again, he lost to fake Ingrid last episode, so it's like the job gerbil who was pretending to be Ingrid, that whole situation last episode. So, but I mean, he's probably one of the people that would most likely be downloaded back into life, and they're there unplugging all of them, because Nora doesn't look at everyone in the upload situation as terrible people. I mean, because we've met people who are good people. It's like, because they thinking like, oh, just because everyone there is our rich, entitled douchebags. It's like, well, we know that's not the case. We see Nathan's case. Nathan's only there because Ingrid's family's rich, so he just happened to be dating a rich person. That's the only reason why he's there. Luke is a vet, so his benefits cover a lot of like his expenses of being here. You met the kid Dylan, and there's decent people here. Not everyone's some rich, entitled douchebag. Yes, there's going to be rich, entitled douchebags, but I don't think that you should lump everyone into, because Mateo and the Ludds in general come from a very cynical point of view, which, I mean, understandable. Even I'm like, yeah, I don't hate every billionaire. I'm like, yeah, are there douchebags billionaires? Yes. Do I assume if like once you do some stupid stuff, I was like, oh, you're an asshole. I don't think just because you're rich, you're an asshole. You're more likely to be an entitled asshole, but let's not forget there are middle class and poor class people. People who are poor, there are people who are middle class who are assholes. So it's not like we're all capable of being assholes. It just depends on us. And like I said, it's probably a more like, on a more personal level, you might feel like it's more likely if you're rich, you're going to be an entitled asshole. But I don't lump everyone into that same boat unless they prove themselves to be, oh, you're just an asshole. So, there's that element to it. And also, obviously, Nora's also coming from her perspective of knowing, well, not everyone in the upload is, that point of view, because of people like Nathan. So, because she also comes from the perspective of, she looks at the upload as not just like a rich person thing, because she is someone who believes, much like Nathan, a lot like other people, like Mr. Choke believes as well, that it should be something that everyone gets to experience. It shouldn't just be for the rich and powerful. Everyone should be able to live a good afterlife when it's all said and done. Things that maybe you were able to experience or do in your own life, but you're able to kind of do now, like I said, in afterlife. So I think that's kind of where she comes from with this whole situation, and she can't really protest a lot of their points, because like she agrees to some degree, but like I said, she's a lot more hopeful and like a lot more optimistic than, like I said, Mateo is. And obviously he's the leadership of the Ludd, so I'm sure the pastor Rob probably like indicates a lot of that, but as a leader of it, you could tell, like, as a leader of the Ludd, like his perspective is most likely to trickle down to most of the members. So I love that they went and plugged a lot of those machines. I was wondering if it was going to be people that Nora personally knew. But I mean, there's no one there that's rich that she personally knows, because the only person she's really gotten to know is like Nathan and his friends who aren't on that rich level. But either way, I love that she ends up like putting one back in. Is like, sorry about that, mister. And she saw it was Jake Paul and pulled it right back out, which I was like, oh man, that's so mean. I mean, to be fair, I have no, like, I'm indifferent towards the Pauls. Like, do they do asshole-ish things? Yeah. I mean, like, I only know Jake through snippets of stuff here and there. I'm a little slightly more well-versed in Logan, but, you know, once again, I'm just like, you know, crypto stuff aside, you know, I mean, that wasn't even a thing when this was being written and stuff like that. So, like, once again, just putting other than like this, like, oh, that kind of sucks you did that, or you're kind of acting like an asshole, like, putting all those, like, personal things aside and any, like, scummy business stuff they might be, like, I'm just like, on a general, more often basis, I'm just kind of indifferent to the Pauls. I don't love them, I don't hate them, I'm just kind of like, yeah, they're alright, I guess, in some capacities. That's just as far as that really goes for me, so it doesn't, nothing more, nothing less type of situation, right? So, but since I am on the conversation of the Ludds and all of that, Nora did kind of get a peek into that more this episode, because she tried to defend Mateo and the Ludds to Nathan, who was like, whoa, like, are you really going to get mixed up in those people? Because it's like, those people are kind of the antithesis of everything that Nora believes in. Like I was bringing up earlier, they're kind of against, because she sees the good in technology, and yes, there's aspects of technology overriding a lot of human elements. It's like bad, but there is good that you know, it's like, tech is neither good nor evil. It's just like anything in life. It depends on it's all dictated by the person who uses it. So that's what ends up dictating the good or bad, or something is the good or bad that the person is projecting upon said thing. So, but she saw kind of a darker side of Lud this episode, where it's like, all right, we're going to activate this virus inside of here, and it's like, well, what about the, you know, it's like, right, the because Mateo's like, well, it'll be fine. Like, the people who are here because it's family day are just going to go back home because they're not actually here. But what about the people who are actually here? Like, all the uploads. It's like, yeah, but they're, if you want to call them people. So, because the moment they become, because for one, they're rich, so he looks at them as less than, and also they're just ones and zeros to him, because it's like the moment you die, like, the moment they got uploaded, they stop being human. They're not human. Like I said, plus being rich kind of like lowers them on the totem pole of like being a actual being. So, because, I mean, we heard from Ingrid that there was at least one floor that apparently disappeared. Some dude got stuck in the wall or whatever. I don't think it was one of like the AI dudes, the ones that all look the same. I don't think it's that dude. I think it might have just actually been an upload. But it's like, so we don't know if there's going to be lasting effects on any of the uploads because of it. But it could have potential. I mean, maybe if it ran longer, it probably would have led to more issues. Luckily, Nora rectified that situation. That's why she was able to figure it out so quickly. I mean, you understand the tech side of things, plus you knew where it was attacking from, because you're the cause of the attack, and so she rectified it immediately, and obviously she's getting all the praise for it, which I'm sure kind of leaves a bad taste in her mouth, because it's like, wow, the group it's that extremist level of like, right, you gotta crack a few eggs to make an omelet, right? Like, you gotta do a little bad for the greater good, and kind of seeing that up close and personal, being directly connected to that, ruining that family day, especially because she knows how important that is, like, especially for Nathan being around his niece and his mom, how that was important to him and so many other people. It's like that day was kind of ruined for a lot of people. It's like, I mean, this is a monumentous moment. This is a very important moment for a lot of people, and that was kind of snatched away from them. So I think a lot of that, and also being praised, like, oh, I didn't really do much. And even later on when Mateo calls her, she like, I mean, obviously Mateo's probably going to be like, yeah, they figured it out, but they figured it out quicker than he was probably expecting. But also their propaganda that were spreading throughout Lakeview, it's like, right, it served its purpose. So they were going to figure it out sooner or later and be able to rectify it. Probably weren't expecting it to get solved so soon, once again, because of Nora, but still. So I doubt like Mateo's going to be aware Nora did it, but it's just going to be like, well, we got a message across. So, and excellent. And Nora proved herself even more, being like, right, I know you could do it. Your dad had reluctancy about whether you'd be doing it because you're too kind-hearted. And Pastor Rob sees you as soft. Once again, showing you the two different perspectives, because her dad sees it as like, no, you're a kind-hearted person, but Rob sees it as you're soft, that you don't have what it takes to do what's necessary. But yeah, in this episode, Nathan is hanging out with his niece and his mom. And I love that Ingrid, well, her family doesn't come through because it's like, well, we don't know where things stand between her and her family. Like, are they even aware of what she's doing? She's probably just isolated from them and they have no idea what she's doing. But also, like, considering how everything played out last season between her and her father, cause didn't she get cut off from her family, if I remember correctly? I don't remember. Because during that poker game last episode, her amount on top of her head was 250 grand, whereas like everyone else was in the millions, because she's cut off from her family's actual money. Like, I think maybe she still gets a little here and there. I'm not quite sure. Because I'm sure that was tied to Ingrid and not necessarily tied to the... Because I feel like even that lady probably wouldn't have had even that amount of cash. Like most people wouldn't have that much like cash in their bank account, like in the savings situation. Most like regular, like everyday folk typically don't have that. Like, isn't the thing like statistically, isn't it like most people only have like 20 or 30 grand in their savings account at most at any given time? I think that's the case. It might even be lower than that, but I could have sworn it's not a lot of money that, on average, statistically, an American at the very least would have in their bank account, like their savings stashed away on like a case of a rainy day type of thing. But either way, that's beside the point. Well, I mean, it's kind of the point, but beside the point. But it's like her dad did pop up this episode, which obviously Nathan's trying to figure out, like, why was he here? Because there's no way he came to see Ingrid, because that family's so jacked up. Like, he's not sentimental enough to have come see Ingrid like that. Because, once again, I don't know if they probably haven't even talked, so he probably doesn't know that she's even here. And if he did, that would have been an issue. Luckily, Ingrid had no idea her dad was here. I mean, she probably would have been a lot more freaked out if she had known, but luckily, Nathan's not going to ask her about it, because he's like, well, she doesn't really know anything beyond what she's kind of made clear what she's known and what she doesn't know. It's like she doesn't know enough to really know the ins and outs. Once again, back to episode 2 of like, right, she wasn't nearly as involved with her dad murdering me, or potentially being involved with my murder, being directly responsible for my murder. You know, it's like, right, she didn't know that much about it, you know, so it's bad to that conversation. Because Luke did bring it up in episode 2 that he thought like maybe there was like a Ludd connection, which Nathan did bring that up to Nora of like maybe there's a correlation there, like the timing of my death, and maybe they wanted to get their hands on my code, and that's what led to all of my death and everything. So, which I'm sure a lot of that, along with everything that went down this episode, is going to make Nora start thinking about that more, but. Because going back to it, like, because Ingrid didn't really have her family with her this episode, she kind of latched on to Nathan and is calling his mom, and she's like, fine, you can call me that, you know, because even once again, she's never been the biggest fan of Ingrid, and Ingrid knows that, but it's like, yeah, someone who uploaded himself to be with someone they're not even married to, you know, it's like, okay, kind of shows that you're very unhinged, but it's like, fine, you can call me mom. So they're all hanging out, but obviously Nathan's having the most fun because it's at his actual family, and Ingrid's the outsider that she feels so isolated, even with them around, because she feels so alone. And even plays into last episode of, once again, Nathan, the best time Nathan had with me lately was when I wasn't me. When it was someone else pretending to be me, he had more fun with me. Like, am I that unlovable, undesirable, you know? And she kind of takes it out on a lot of people. Which I love that Tinsley situation where she goes over and hugs one of the guys. It's like, don't worry, one day you'll be more human than she'll ever be. And the guy hugs her back. And to the point that same AI goes off and hugs Ingrid later. And she's like confessing all this stuff of like, am I really unlovable? And he's like, no, Miss Kitterman, I love you. And it's just like, right? This robot that's meant to care and love everyone, that rings so hollow when it's like the only person I can get to actually admit they love me and sincerely mean it and love me for me doesn't really even know me. You're just saying that because that's a preset in you to be as kind and courteous and lovable to the guests as possible, to give them what they need in that moment, not that you actually feel it or believe it. But I think that's kind of growth in that system, and maybe that's going to be something we see too, that this system little by little starts changing and growing, or maybe just that one in particular starts changing and growing because of it. Maybe amongst a crowd, he'll start sticking out more and more because of this episode. Or like I said, maybe it'll eventually spread out to the rest of the AI guys as well. Because they also brought back the baby situation they introduced in episode 2 this season of like, oh, like the amalgamation of people's like the parents' faces so you can have like a digital baby. And because Ingrid was all about it, but it enters that territory of like people being like, oh, we should get married, or when our relationship is on the rock, we should get married, or we should have a kid. Not saying every relationship, well, that's the solution, but that can on occasion be certain people's solution of like, well, we'll kind of figure things after, but let's have this, let's focus on this happy thing of like, oh, having a baby together, or getting married, and that maybe that will help us put us in a better spot to fix our issues. But it's like, it's meant to be it's a band-aid on a wound that's still bleeding. It's not even disinfected yet. It's still bleeding in a metaphorical sense, right? So that was kind of Ingrid's solution. But Nathan's like, no, I'm irresponsible. I'm too narcissistic to ever like have a child. But his mom is like, no, like the man you've become in this place, you've grown and changed. But even who you were before wasn't half bad. But it's like you add that on top of how much you've grown, you would be, because he's like, right, I can be a decent, I'm in the same boat as Nathan. I don't think I'd be a good parent. I mean, I'm an okay uncle. I mean, you know, in some capacities, but once again, I don't have to take the full responsibility of taking care of a living human being, so it's a bit different. But I think his mom, well, not think, his mom's words definitely did hit. Because for her, it's like when she heard Nathan be like, yeah, me as a parent, yeah, right, that you saw that smile. Because like the sad thing is, like, she will never have any children from, I mean, luckily she has, she does have a grandchild, but it's like she doesn't, you know, won't have one on Nathan's side of that. That kind of got nipped in the bud. So, but later on, Nathan does tell Ingrid like, "Hey, I would like let's revisit that conversation. Let's have a kid." And she's like, "Soon?" He's like, "Yeah, in the near future." And she's like, "Near future, soon?" And he's like, "No." And she's like, "No, it's gonna happen soon." So we'll see how that plays out. It's like, right, she was like, maybe my face and your hair, or rather our hair, your abs and my hair, our baby's going to be so beautiful, yada yada, so on and so forth. I also, one of my favorite bits in the episode is the whole situation with Mateo, while he's talking to Nora, the Roomba, it's like smacking against his foot, and Ivan's like, really? Are you doing that? And she's like, oh, I want to clean him up. He's a real man. And Mateo's like, I'm not enticing her. I mean, it. I'm not provoking or being provocative towards her. I mean, it. I love that bit. It's just like, also, if you notice, it's wearing different underwear than it was the last episode. So it's like, he changes the underwear. He doesn't even keep the same. That's like, oh, homie. Ivan, you got some problems, my dude. But I guess it's like, yeah, that's the like most extreme version of it. I mean, what's the difference between that, like a sex doll, and eventually where the technology gets to where it will eventually get to? We have like androids and stuff like that, and kind of in that same vein of like kind of the girlfriend experience, but in the form of a robot or android. Like, is it really that different? It's just it's wild because it's in the form of a Roomba, and it's like, that's wild. I mean, you know, so obviously I think about like the whitest kids you know bit where the guy's in the store trying to find a vacuum cleaner to see if, you know, and the whole bit is like, it's going to rip your dick off. You're not going to find a vacuum cleaner. Every vacuum cleaner you get will rip your dick off, dude. I'm just trying to tell you. He's like, whoa, I'm not trying to do that. You're gross for even thinking. Dude, I'm telling you right now, any vacuum cleaner you find will rip your dick off. It just makes me think of that bit. But either way, I didn't talk about it, but because this is like Nora's like first official day as a redesigner, like she ran into Dylan, and obviously he's still upset because it's like, right, I've grown, but I'm still not like old enough, and it's just they don't have enough money to kind of pay for him to like actually like be grown and everything, right? But Nora kind of helped out by being like, oh yeah, like you could get a lot of points or whatever by doing this archery thing because it's a little bugged right now. I could always wait to fix it, and kind of gave them help. And it's like, oh, you're an angel. She's like, well, actually, I'm part of redesign. And like, it's a dream come true for her to be able to make the experience. Like, she enjoyed being able to help people, but she also loves to being able to design and make this place an even more perfect heaven for everyone here. So it really struck a chord with her, so it's nice to be able to see her kind of in this situation. I brought this out, I think, last episode because Tinsley was still using Nora, or at least at the time until Nora got back. But Tinsley now does have her own angel. I guess they don't have any other extra angels, or maybe she got so used to being Nora that maybe she never bothered putting in the paperwork or whatever necessary to. Because she's supposed to have already gotten hers, but they just like, oh, it's easier. She's a temp. Just go ahead. But maybe she's full staff now, or maybe she still is a temp. But she shows up as herself. It's like, oh, this is me. Granted, Nathan was preoccupied, plus also Nora's back, which you can, doesn't come up this episode, but it will eventually. It's sad because, Tinsley actually does like Nora, which I should also comment on. He knows Tinsley's name because when he saw Nora, he's like, yo, Tinsley. I was like, oh, I didn't think you actually knew her name. Once again, we don't know the full time frame, so, after the dinner party episode, he probably got to spend more time with her He's like, right, they probably became friendly enough that he probably did see her from time to time. I don't know if that's his first time running into her post, because obviously she covered a lot of Nora's people, so, and maybe people Nora didn't cover before, but so I don't know. And there's also the whole Luke situation, him playing, what was it? It's not tennis, it's tennis, because it's instead the point how you win, it's like you basically gain points by slapping someone in the genitals, which his buddy's there, his army buddy, but it's like, bro, because he's not actually here, he can't feel it. You're literally the only one here who would be able to feel it. He's like, well, yeah, and that's the thrill of the game. That's what makes it even more exciting. And he convinced, provoked Alicia to play, and she was kind of getting racked up, and because she's very competitive, but also because her and Luke have that little back and forth thing, because it's obvious that Luke likes her. I don't know whether that will just be a pure weird friendship, a kind of friendship rivalry thing, but his buddy was kind of told Alicia later on about the good side of Luke. He is a caring dude, that he is kind of silly, but he does that to kind of, keep people calm. He's like, that's why, at a time when we were in the military, it's when drones were first coming into play, and he was the one that kind of joked around, kept us level-headed. We would always follow his lead because he was always that guy to kind of ground us. And it's yeah, you're everything that Luke, all the nice things he ever said about you, which Alicia's like, whoa, what type of nice things have you said? Because anytime he's always called up, especially in the first episode, because he just wanted an excuse to see her, because I think it is a thing of he straight up likes her, and I think because that was always even a bit in the first season, if I remember correctly, that he liked hanging around her. He liked the back and forth that they have. So what said, if it's a romantic thing, I don't know, or just could be you're easily becoming one of my best friends type of thing. I liked our dynamic, so you kind of continue seeing that, and maybe Alicia walking away, kind of having a slightly different perspective on Luke. We'll ultimately have to wait to see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.